Hello students, this is Professor McDermott with the video recap of your Module 3 discussions on imperialism. We'll start with Group 1. They had a reading from Josiah Strong's very important book and big bestseller, Our Country, of 1885. And Strong was a very, very avid imperialist. And as usual, Group 1, you had an excellent discussion that really covered all the bases of Strong's different arguments. And Jerquisha Gilbert, you did what can I say, just a fantastic job as chair. Really couldn't have asked for anything better. And here's the group answer for the first question about Josiah Strong's document posted by Jerquisha. After reading everyone's posts, we have decided collectively as a group that Strong believed that the Anglo-Saxons that migrated to America were the best of the Anglo-Saxons. Now, just an aside, when we talk about the Anglo-Saxon race, we're really talking about the English people. But Josiah Strong believed that, in a sense, the essence of America was its English ancestry, ignoring, of course, all the other different ethnic groups that had come to be a part of America. But he saw America as a predominantly Anglo-Saxon country. And those are the ones that he believed would take over the world, the American Anglo-Saxon. The reasons that Strong believed that it was the destiny of the American Anglo-Saxon to take over the world were: 1, the Anglo-Saxon had an instinct for colonizing due to their unequaled energy, indomitable perseverance, and personal independence. 2, the Anglo-Saxons were a great representative of the greatest needs of mankind, which were a pure spiritual Christianity and civil liberty. 3, the Anglo-Saxons' money-making power, because the Anglo-Saxons possessed a power that was of increasing importance in the widening commerce of the world's future. So, excellent summary of Strong's arguments there. Strong believed it was the destiny of the United States to acquire colonies overseas. We had this gift or genius for colonizing that we inherited from our Anglo-Saxon ancestors. Now, in question 2, I asked everyone to discuss whether they agreed or disagreed with Strong's arguments, and not surprisingly, just about everybody disagreed strongly with Josiah Strong on this point, and pointed to the great contributions that people of other races have made to the United States and the racism inherent in Strong's arguments. But William Dowdell boldly said this: I agree with Josiah Strong's argument that the Anglo-Saxon American race's destiny is to take over the world. The term Anglo-Saxon is a more pinpointed term used to describe the American people during this time period. Now, I just want to say I'm really glad you felt comfortable posting that, William, because any opinion anybody should be safe to express in this course. And obviously, the United States of America has played a very major role in world affairs for the last 120 years at least. And so I'm glad you felt confident to express this opinion, but I'm also glad that other people felt comfortable pushing back a little bit at your comment, and that a dialogue ensued, like it always does with you, Group 1. So that William then felt that he needed to modify his opinion somewhat, and he posted, after reading some of the other comments, my position changes a little bit. Strong was partially true in his beliefs that the Anglo-Saxons were destined to take over the world. He was somewhat correct because the Anglo-Saxons used all means available to better their individual lives, including suppressing other races and cultures. Their ability to suppress and exploit other races is what helped them to achieve their power and position for a period of time. As time moved forward, these same races would eventually stand up for the right to be equal, and ultimately the Americans would become a race that has been and continues to be very successful. This has taken all races to accomplish this task. Now, that is exactly the kind of discussion, give and take exchange that I'm looking for. A friendly and honest exchange that leads people to question their own beliefs, and to come to a new viewpoint and to really develop and grow intellectually. That is what this course is about. So thank you, Group 1, for giving us a good example of that. Group 2, you haven't got to that point yet where you're having that kind of learning experience. And I don't want to blame you entirely. You had a letdown from your chair in the last module that really didn't help. And there have been definitely several people who have been contributing, doing a great job contributing, like Sean Kay and Michael and Victoria, and also Brittany, regular contributors. But by and large, Group 2, you haven't developed that kind of learning experience. And I'm not angry at you, but I instead of summarizing your arguments, I'm going to use the time I would normally spend doing that to just go off on some reflections that you inspired in me. And I'm grateful to you, Group 2, for inspiring these reflections. Um, you know, it would be a lot easier for me if this was a really cut and dried course where I just had you read a chapter of the textbook and take a quiz and then take an exam. It would be a lot easier for me. There would be less grading. I could have the computer grade things instead of having to grade these discussion posts manually and so forth. Would make my life a lot easier. And it would probably make your lives easier too, because I know that many of you are working full time jobs, you have families, and you may be taking 6 or 7 courses trying to graduate quickly. But you know what? I just can't be that kind of professor. I just will not work in a diploma mill where the goal is simply to get students into and out of classes with a minimum of thought so they can progress towards getting that piece of paper we call a diploma. Because to me, that is not learning, that is not education, and that is really just a waste of time. And I'm not speaking to you exclusively, Group 2, and certainly not to the people in Group 2 who have been contributing, because I thank you for your contributions. But speaking to everybody that is looking at education as just a hoop to jump through to get a degree and to get on to a career where you can make a good income and have a nice house in the suburbs and get a Lexus or whatever, because that's a waste. It's just a waste of time. If we're going to be in college, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to use our minds, to expand our minds, to think. If we're taking 7 classes and we have a full time job and a family, maybe we're taking too many classes, or maybe we're working too many hours. Let's think about that. Let's think about that. Now, I realize that all of you don't have some of the luxury I had when I was an undergraduate, to really be a full time student and just have a part time job. And I understand that. And I know the sacrifices you're making. On the other hand, I just want to say it's now 9:12 p.m. and I've been going since 6 a.m. nonstop because I believe in what we're doing. And I wouldn't ask you guys to do anything that I'm not doing myself. And I'm just not going to settle for a half-ass educational experience, to put it bluntly. I just can't be that kind of professor, and that's why I ask you to do this. I ask a lot of you, and I ask a lot of myself, and I just ask you all to please make this meaningful and take this opportunity to really have this good dialogue, okay? Thanks for listening to me on that. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to Group 3, you had the document by the Anti-Imperialist League, which was obviously against imperialism. And I asked Group 3 why were they against imperialism. And here's the answer posted by Kristen Sutherland, who did a very nice job as chair. It seems that the biggest reason we determined for the Anti-Imperialist League's stance against American imperialism is that it impedes basic human rights and freedoms. The second reason why they were against imperialism is because American government was built around the concept that government only has power because the people give them power. Imperialism forces power onto people without regard for what they want. The third reason why the anti-imperialists were against imperialism is because creating conditions of war is essential imperialism, and the League felt that Americans should never do that. And so yes, this was the basis of their argument, that America was built on freedom, and it was built on public participation and the consent of the governed. And imperialism, like the experience in the Philippines after 1898, really violated those basic truths and betrayed who we are. as the American people. And again, not surprisingly, everybody seemed to agree with the Anti Imperialist League's position. It's interesting, in recent years, I've seen students really embrace the isolationist viewpoint and turn against the idea that the United States should be involved at all overseas. And I think that has something to do with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that have raised a lot of questions in people's minds. Not to take away anything from the sacrifice of our soldiers there, but that have raised the question of whether we really, whether our goals were really well thought out, whether we really should have been involved at all. Um, and so I decided to challenge Group 3 a little bit, and I asked them, well, are there any circumstances where we should be involved overseas? Surely there are some times when the United States should get involved to right wrongs and help the oppressed. And you had some great responses to this. James Rafe Waters, you said, I'm not opposed to the takeover and temporary control of a country. However, I believe a government of the native people should ultimately represent the population. And Brianna kind of piggybacked off that. You said, I don't feel like it's our place to take over a foreign country. However, if the country is having enough issues that they need help, I think it's acceptable for us to provide guidance. And Tiana, you said we should only get involved in foreign conflicts if the consequences are going to negatively affect us. Other than that reason, we should not be involved. And Kristen, you said, I think the only time the U.S. should get involved in a foreign conflict is during instances when genocide is taking place or when a government is a major threat to civilians. So good responses. I thank you for picking up on my request and responding to my post on the focus thread. And I thank you all three groups really, for staying with the course so far, for still being with us and giving it the old college try. And really, again, I encourage you to make the most out of this educational experience to the extent that you can with all of your other obligations. And remember, I am here to help. Don't hesitate to contact me if I can be of service in any way. All right. Thank you very much. Let's get rolling on the current Module 4 discussions and look forward to further dialogue there. Thanks.